Welcome back to another episode on Toyota Celica, my 1977 Toyota Celica. Last episode you saw me polishing things. In this episode, I'm going to be filling some cracks. And there you have it, everyone. A table full of the fruits of my labor. All the chrome and stainless stuff has all been polished up to what I would consider acceptable levels of shininess. So not perfect as I closed with last episode, but certainly good enough for what I'm trying to achieve on this build. And that raises the next question, is whether or not this dash pad is good enough for what we're trying to do with this build. It is obviously in what we would call slightly rough condition. It has a rather massive crack in it right through here, which goes all the way through to the back side. It's not the easiest repair job in the world. I've done a bunch of research on it, mostly again on YouTube. In fact, I watched Throttle's episode where our friend Mickey and the rest of the guys at Throttle, they restored a dash and they used 3M flexible body filler to fill a lot of these cracks, and then did the typical kind of like sanding and prep work, and then they painted it. And I think the end result was really very good. In fact, I wrote a story about Mickey's AE86 for Modified Magazine probably 10 years ago now. Great guy, really knowledgeable car guy. He actually messaged me on Facebook because I brought up the dash pad repair job, and he's like, you know what, I actually prefer the Polyvance method, which uses plastic filler rather than body filler. It's kind of like the plastic welding type kit. So you melt plastic into the cracks and you kind of like, while it's warm, you work it down into there, and then you can sand it like you could body filler or any other kind of like workable material. So he thinks that's actually a superior method to using body filler. And he might be right, but man, it looks labor intensive. Having watched that Polyvance video, which by the way, I'll put a link in the description to both the Throttle episode and the Polyvance method for repairing a dash pad, and you guys can be the judge for yourself. But I also reached out to our friend Devin at Unique Upholstery. Unique Upholstery is a local professional upholsterer who does all kinds of interior work, including repairing dash pads and recovering them. And I said, what would you do to repair this, and how much would it cost if I was to bring it to you? The cost was a little scary. I think he quoted me something like $1,200 to $1,600 Canadian dollars, which at the time I was like, wow, that's expensive. But then when I started to do some research, like a place called Just Dashes, I believe in the LA area, who does really nice dash restoration jobs, costs like $1,200 US. So I think Devin's price was definitely right in the ballpark, maybe even a bit of a bargain. But it's still a lot of money to spend to restore a dash pad. So I think I'm gonna have a go at myself. Devin recommended actually cutting out this section that's cracked so badly and filling it with a 2-stage urethane foam, and then like reshaping it. And that would really be the professional way to do it. However, to get my hands on a 2-stage urethane foam right now is almost impossible because everything's shut down because of this whole COVID situation. So what I did was buy some low expansion spray foam from Home Depot, which Devin recommended against. It's the highest quality one I could find on their website, and I think the low expansion will work in the sense that it won't try to fill the cracks too aggressively and like start to open things up. At least that's my hope. Oh my God. 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 So let me put on my thinking cap for a minute here, and we'll come back to what Dave thinks might be the affordable solution to this hot mess I've got here. Welcome back to my little Celica shrine here, the workbench that you saw me in last episode. And a couple things I should have touched on off the top is, well, part of my logic for wanting to repair this dash isn't just that I'm a cheap bastard. It's also that this dash didn't cost me a whole lot. My Celica friend, Joseph Stewart, down in the Atlanta, Georgia area was kind enough to send this up here very affordably. I think he charged me like $50 for it. So in any case, this one was so inexpensive and is in rough enough shape that it seemed like it was a good opportunity for me to try to do something, try to learn something. And as you may recall also from the previous episode or two, I do have this plastic dash cap, which is designed to fit over the dash pad. And it's really meant to deal with conditions like this where your dash pads are all cracked and you just want to put a cap on it and make it look new again. So this is a very affordable way to do it. This is like 120 bucks on eBay. And I am thinking about using this. So I'm not especially concerned about making this perfect. I really just want to make it strong again, because with this big crack in the middle, it's not going to be very strong. So I want to just like fill that up, make it strong, and then bond this plastic cap onto it. And then maybe at that point I'm done. I'll decide once it's on there and maybe put it in the car and to see how it feels and see how it looks. Let's just set up a little time lapse here, everybody. And I think what I'm gonna do is just pick away at this cover. It's like a vinyl on top of the foam, and it's all so brittle and old, it's just coming right off. So I think I'm gonna pick off what I can. We'll get a really good look at the foam here, and we'll go from there. All right, as you saw at the end of that quick little time lapse, I decided to glue this strap that runs on the underside of the dash pad back to the foam where it had separated. So this area had separated from the strap and it sort of peeled up and was just not supported in any way, and it was going to be a lot more work to try to cut that out and fill that whole area. So I just glued it in here with some PL construction adhesive, which is a very, very strong adhesive. It'll hold anything together. Wasn't sure how it would react with these materials, but it seems to have worked really well. It's nice and secure, and in fact it has kind of a nice, almost foam-like feel to it. So it's tempting to like fill the rest of the cracks with it and see if I can sand it, but I think instead I'll use the more traditional techniques of either a body filler or maybe the plastic welding. Before I do that, I'm gonna sand this down smooth so that these high points where it still is sort of like rolled up is sanded smooth, and I'll sand the edges of the vinyl smooth as well where it's still adhered well to the foam underneath. That's really the correct way to start before you start filling the cracks in. I'll also bevel the edges of the cracks, as you should, so that it can fill in more evenly and smoothly. Sanding 43-year-old foam without a mask on? Bad idea. Oh, man. Mask on, everybody. Just gonna bevel these edges now a bit if I can. All right, guys, there you have it. I have beveled those edges just using a basic sanding disc on a little Milwaukee rotary tool here, and works fine. You could use a smaller disc if you wanted to get more precise with it. Again, I'm not aiming for perfection on this because I'm going to cover it with that plastic cap, but wanted to try it out anyway. And basically the idea is to chase those cracks down far enough into the foam that the crack's gone. So I'm into good foam now, and I've beveled the edges back so that I can fill it in and sand it nice and smooth. All right, guys, it's a new day here. My wardrobe has changed, and maybe my attitude a bit too, because changed my thought process on how to repair the dash. I've gone back to look at that Polyvance technique that Mickey was recommending, where you use plastic welding to fill this in, and I actually think it's a pretty convincing method. I chatted with Pete about it too from a socially safe distance, and he thought it was a good application as well. He's tried this kit before. This is Pete's hoarding skills coming into play again. He bought this kit, and I was like, whoa, what do we need that for? Turns out he was trying to repair bumpers with it, but he found that this plastic is just like a little too soft for bumper repair, but he thinks it's a great way to fill these cracks and holes in. So gonna give it a try here. It looks pretty straightforward. From what I saw in the Polyvance video, he just heats up this plastic on here and then kind of like breaks the piece off in the crack and then uses the heat to sort of, you know, work it down in there and just sort of fills it in and smooths it out like peanut butter. So let's give this a try here, and hopefully I don't set myself on fire or make too big of a mess of it. Wow, that worked remarkably well. I had no expectations or idea how that would go, but it was really very easy to do. Just takes a bit of patience. Got to wait for that iron to heat up, and then it really just melts this stuff in there, and you can actually see it sort of melting into the foam. So I can see why it's a recommended method, because it really looks like it adheres extremely well to the foam. It bonds in there really nicely, and once you get it warm, you can just kind of smear it around and work it into the low spots, and man, it's just really quite easy to do. And I think that kit's relatively inexpensive too. I'll put a link to it in the description below, but yeah, I'm super satisfied with how that went. And I'm just gonna give this a quick cleanup, because it's still got a lot of dust on it and stuff from when I was sanding it. And then I'm gonna look at how to glue that plastic cap on here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my home garage, where this whole project started. And Pete needs the shop, so that's why I'm back home. And by the way, when I say ladies and gentlemen, I mean 97% gentlemen and 3% ladies, according to our analytics. So thank you, 3% ladies, for tuning in. We do appreciate it. And the 97% dudes, well, we appreciate you too. So, dash, what's left to do here? Well, a couple things I want to update you on before I attempt to bond that dash cap on here. And that is, you'll probably notice that I threw some black vinyl paint around the edges. And that's just because I don't want to see any brown poking through once I fit this up in the car. There's some trim pieces that meet up to the edges of the dash from the bottom and from the A-pillars, and I don't want to see any brown poking through there. Before I move on to bonding that cap on, I also decided I want to do a little bit of plastic welding on the underside of this crack. It's obviously very well sealed up from the top side, which is, I think, the important part, but I think I'd like to even out and seal up the bottom as well, just to give it a little bit more strength. Now's the time to do it before I bond that cap on. So it'll only take a second to do that, and I'll give you a close look at that plastic welding process before we move on to bonding on the cap with a method I think I've decided on, which is going to allow it to be removable. So stay tuned for that. Just melting the original weld, sort of smoothing it out in there first, and then I'll come in with some fresh stuff, sort of fill that valley up. Pretty awesome that you can just come in afterwards though and melt that old stuff down again. With those plastic welding touch-ups handled, and I did a little more touch-up on the top here because I had sanded it down to a bit of a low spot there, so I touched that up as well. And man, I do enjoy the plastic welding. It takes no skill, which suits me well. So give it a try, everybody, if you have to do this kind of a repair job. I think it's really pretty remarkable how easy it is. And as you can see here, I had to do some sanding along the back edge of the pad to fit it up to the cap properly. So that now fits well. And I just need to give this a good wipe down. And yes, this is my wife's favorite beach towel. I'm using that so I don't scratch the plastic on my dirty countertop here. So anyway, gonna clean everything up, and then I'm gonna run that sealant along the perimeter of this thing and bond it on here. And there you have it, everyone. One bonded on dash pad, and I think it actually turned out just about perfectly. Overall, I think this is a success, and I really do like the look of the dash cap. It's got the same texture to it as the other plastics on the dash. As you can see in a little side by side here, that the textures I think are a good match. So I think it's a good look. I could always wrap it in suede or leather down the road if I want to, but for now I think I'm really quite happy with this. The reason I went with that urethane, this is a Proform PF224 urethane sealer, which is kind of like a chassis seam sealer. Having chatted with Pete about it, he used that to bond on the front lip on the Evo, and we thought, you know what, it's good to have it in here because the way the dash pad and the capper are not a perfect fit, it just allows those gaps to get filled, gives it a bit of flexibility so that it's not sort of like binding up or getting pinched on there and losing its shape. So I think it's a great solution, and I can always cut it off with a knife under the edge there. I could cut the cap off and start over again. So a reversible process is never a bad thing either. So all in all, very happy with it. Hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of fun doing it, and in the next one you will see this on the car just for mock-up purposes, and then you will see me do a major cleanup on that engine. The beams is out. Now's a good opportunity to go through it, just give it a really good cleaning, maybe paint some of the parts, maybe paint the block since it's an iron block, maybe paint some of the aluminum stuff that might look a little bit corroded. The front subframe is also looking a little rusty already, so I'm gonna, I think, maybe slap a coat of Por 15 on that. So that's what you've got to look forward to, everyone. And after that, man, I'm starting to run out of things to do. So sure hoping the border opens up soon so that I can get the car down there to the Street Banditos, because Tim and I have been chatting on Instagram about maybe making some carbon parts for the car, so stay tuned for that. Can I just say, shooting at home is a true delight, everyone. The garbage trucks are going by, my kids are inside trying to burn the house down. I'm out here trying not to lose my mind, trying to finish what it should be a relatively simple job, but no, bear with me, everyone. I'm just gonna maybe have some tequila, and I'll be right back.